So check this for fitment. I know it already worked on the other one that had a different configuration. If you are not going to print out this piece, if you have access to a printer, I don't know why you wouldn't. This is just a lot easier. This is what you have to do that was not covered in the video to make this fit. So the first thing you would have to do would be cut off the lever. And once that's flat, you're going to sand that out, prep the surface. Then you are going to drill into here and use whatever screws you want to mount that there. Use a little bit of super glue or even a little dab of hot glue to hold it in place until you can drill it in place. But again, this is not really necessary anymore. Just go check on Thingiverse and download this piece. It's a lot easier. And that way you don't have to destroy your original piece, and if you ever want to turn it back for whatever reason to semi-automatic or stock configuration, you can do that. So you don't have to worry about damaging or screwing up this piece. And that is pretty much it. I've noticed a couple of potential problems that you're going to have if you print this out. Thankfully, everybody who's doing these will be having access to a 3D printer, so they can just print out more of them. Now the first issue here is, again, this push arm is not my design, but it is based upon the rack and basic concept. You can see that the teeth do not match up perfectly, so what happens is the final push is on the half gear, or the half tooth. I can potentially see that half tooth shearing off. If you print out of ABS or I think, what other material? Some type of ethylene would probably be more durable. This is PLA. PLA is a little bit more easy to shatter. It's probably one of the most brittle materials that you can use, but it's easy to work with other than that. So you can see that's the first issue that we have here. So I can potentially see, if you run it with enough rounds, that half tooth could potentially break off. Would it still work? Yeah, it'll still work. It's not going to give you a complete full stroke, but it should be enough to feed a standard length dart into the flywheels. So that's problem number one. Problem number two is that if you look at the spring, the return spring, and the cut that was put into the catch here, it's normally just a little hook tooth. So it holds on there, but because this type of mechanism vibrates so much, what can happen often is it can vibrate free. So that's issue number two. That looks like it's on pretty good, but again, you vibrate it enough times and eventually it can pop off, as opposed to the stock design where it's an actual double hook. So not only is it a hook here, but it also hooks down there. So that's issue number two. If you can see, maybe, you can see that the double coil here on the catch is thicker than the, and this may just be from inaccuracies, limitations of the printer that I'm using. It doesn't fit in perfectly there. So it's kind of hanging on tentatively, right? The third problem that I found, and again, this is a materials issue, less of a design issue, although I will say that when you have a cut in like that, that is creating a point where it can break. So if you're going to use the original design without modifying it any further, then I would recommend doing this at 100% infill for maximum strength. Otherwise, this piece right there can potentially break off over time if you are printing with a more brittle material like PLA. If you're using ABS, probably won't happen, but PLA definitely. It's already happened here, and you can see that the top, the catch, snapped off. Now this is an easy fix. I mean, you can epoxy it in place, but again, there are other ways of getting around this issue. So 100% infill, use ABS or some type of ethylene. When you print this, you can do a remix, change. I know most people just want to print and go, but that is the third, I guess you could say, problem that I have found with this piece. Now the way of getting around the vibration, if this still keeps popping off, is you can use a little bit of extra filament material, whatever it is that you printed with, and just heat solder it into place, and that'll keep it from popping off. What that won't do is it won't get around the brittle issue if you're printing in PLA. And I know that A lot of people print in PLA. It's not really recommended for functional pieces. I do it all the time, but again, I don't have a problem. I'm always prototyping and replacing parts, so if something breaks, it just means I'll redesign a new version and keep going from there. So those are the issues with this arm. Other than that, it functions fine. Just be aware of those 3 little caveats.